Mr. Brennan? Mr. Burgess?
Present.
Ms. Gleason?
Present.
Ms. Herbert? Mr. Unthank?
Here.
Oh, I see you. I'll call it over. Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Robinson? And you have a form.
Motion adoption of the number two, adoption of the agenda.
Second.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Burgess?
Yes.
Ms. Gleason?
Yes.
Ms. Herbert? Mr. Unthank?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Midland Transit Riders. Who's speaking? We all do that. See.
Thank you again for letting me speak to Walter Durson with regards to just last time I was here, I had requested information on the e-buses for our ridership regarding how it would affect the routes and what routes they were assigned to, so on and so forth. And Mr. Pearl assured me I would have yet received that. I just want to, I would like to get that information as soon as possible because that is something that the riders are very anxious about.
We can get that to you today after the meeting.
Okay. The other thing is there's, you had heard about it from one of the public members. It's all been on our Facebook page, all over, several writers expressed concern about the change in the pickup and drop-off points for the 701 and 501, which I now understand meet in front of Hannah House and the Prisma Baptist Hospital. The concern they have is that the safety issues for the disabled and the elderly, particularly when traffic is busy and people have got to go against the lights. So we would like you to reconsider bringing that back to the station, which I believe was on Sumter Street at the time originally. That's a major concern. So that's all.
I have a question.
Yes.
You were talking about the riders were having problems speaking about it about Richmond, personal health there.
Yeah.
Because there's a shuttle right there because I go to doctors over there. I'm over there all the time. But people get on there, the people that work there, they get off there and they go right into where their workstations are. All those buildings right around the hospital, is that what you're speaking about?
Yes, ma'am, but not everybody. And I'm just reporting what.
I understand where you're coming from, but that's why I want to let you know I'm for it too.
I'm just,
Yeah.
this is what comes on our Facebook page and our email. So I asked, are there any concerns? And Walter and I, we thoroughly discussed this with you. We realized this is okay, and they like, this is a concern. I understand that a lot of people can get from the hospital, but not everybody works at the hospital. Some people work, on the other side of the street. So the problem.
Those buildings, because there's buildings all the way around the back of the hospital too.
Right, but the transit center is on the opposite side, is what I'm saying. The transit center is across on the other side of the street of the Prisma Baptist. Okay?
Prisma Baptist.
Or Hannah House, whatever it is. It's on the, so the concern that I've had related to me several times and that Walter has had related to him and Charles Gossett in person and also on our page is that, and there was someone at the board meeting last month that mentioned this, that basically it's just very dangerous for people who are disabled and the elderly, and that they would like at least considered to bring it back to where it was back on the back in front of the transit station. Instead of in front of the, it had a house.
Thank you, Mr.
So that's, I understand your concern, ma'am,
Oh, I ain't got no problem, because I
but
know how to get.
I'm just reporting to you what the riders, that's what they tell me, so.
Thank you,
Right,
Mr.
we
Seymour.
just- that's all.
All right, can I get a motion to adopt some of the minutes?
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Mr. Unthankful.
Yes.
Okay, number 5, passing of minutes. Anybody from Davidson Ford?
Yes. Good afternoon. I can provide an update on that. In the past month, we have continued to coordinate with the South Carolina administration on the stop number 3203 at Midlands Tech Northeast. And at the moment, that is scheduled to go on their meeting in June for approval. We've also recently submitted a used shelter encroachment permit to SCDOT for stop number 1459 on Crane Church Road. Other than that, my report is there if you have any other questions.
All right. You done? You done? All right, transit, Mr. Coates.
Yes, excuse my hoarseness. Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and dive in. I also have Mr. Kevin Bundrick, our maintenance manager here. When I get to him, he has a couple of samples I wanted to show so that we circle back in reference to the AC filters, and we do have some information on that that we want to share. But before I get to him, I'll dive into a few topics here. One thing I didn't know is that Columbia ranks 19th in most challenging places to live with spring allergies. Actually, I found that interesting. So many people saying they've been having a hard time with that. So, and we've seen it here, people in and out. So just wanted to kind of mention that. No COVID report out or flu or nothing. As far as customer service, we did see an overall improvement in our safety complaints that came in, an improvement in our reliability, which focuses on our late not showing up, things of that nature. What I haven't included in here, which I will be going forward, is taking a look at our number of pass-bys for the month, because that does often come up. We had 10 for the month of March, and of those 10, two of those were valid, 4 invalid, and there's 4 that are still pending investigation. We're reviewing the video from our QA person. So I'll be reporting out on that. I mean, we do have policies in place for that. And when you violate that particular policy, there is progressive discipline actually issued by Mr. Mack when we have those situations. So we do take that seriously. And I'll be adding that into the report just to kind of get a feel of where we are. Another thing we're taking a look at is as far as our number of missed trips and some of the challenges that we're facing. In fact, next week we're having another job fair. The last one was pretty successful, trying to close our gap of number of operators that we need for service, and all the different things that fall under missed trips are things such as workers' compensation, FMLA, long-term, people calling out for various reasons, headcount levels, and of course, maintenance and aging fleet. All that goes into how you can miss a trip. We probably had a little over 100 hits this month. We haven't finished tallying them all. It usually, because everything's manual, it takes us usually about 10 days or so to kind of get all the numbers in. So I'll update the board report with that final number. So we'll be able to see that. And then that's something we'll be watching very closely because it kind of ties in with our reliability as far as if people are calling in saying, hey, the bus is not showing up, it's not showing up, it's not showing up. you're looking at, okay, where are we at with the missed trips? What is the reason why it didn't show up? You can kind of zero in and kind of focus on where you need to focus in on. So they kind of go hand in hand, and it makes sense to report that out when we're looking at reliability. So we'll be doing that going forward. Let me take this time, because it'll just take him a couple of minutes. I have Mr. Kevin Bundrick here. Kevin, you come up front. Sure. Kevin has some information in reference to our AC filters on the bus, currently what we have in stock, in the buses, and some recommendations from the manufacturer, and also from the AC system, our Thermo King system. So Kevin, all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Our bus systems, they're Thermo King, as he said. I have contacted our Thermo King rep and talked to him about the filters in the buses, about upgrading and changing them. This is what we currently have now in the buses. And it's a MERV 5 filter, very thin, not much filtration. And we can go up to a MERV 7 filter. In that without causing warranty issues or damage to the system. And you can see it's a much more substantial.
Catches particles better, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot more particles, a lot more dust. The initial cost for this would be about $5,000 to replace in all of our buses. The only other option that Thermo King recommends, if you wanted to go to that extreme, they do have an air purifier that hooks into their system. They're very expensive. It would be about $150,000 to do the whole fleet.
How long does it last?
They can't really tell you that. It can be PM just like the rest of the system. It has a lighting system in it that's supposed to kill germs. And it has extra filters in it. All of this will have to be serviced after the initial cost of it. But it's just like taking care of the rest of the AC system. It will be PM'd and serviced just like the rest of the unit. Like I said, very expensive, but that's our options to changing it without having any warranty issues or any problems with the Thermo King units that are on our buses.
I'm just wondering, regardless to what we do, will that change this complaint about opening windows? See, because a lot of times these windows just open to get some air blowing in. See, and that's doing the air conditioning and heat. Has anybody ever complained and said that I have allergies and I need it,
I have not seen that complaint, Mr. Fergus, come through. In fact, I don't see very many complaints at all in reference to it. The opening and closing of the windows, we had some come in, and I think this was, it kind of led us here. Just basically to say that, the doors open on the bus every couple of minutes anyway, and on top of the system vents out. Now, granted, it's probably an opportunity to improve on our filters. You see how thin it is. That may be an opportunity. It's inexpensive move forward, but of course, I'm not a decision maker on that. No, it won't resolve the issue of opening and closing windows. But as far as the quality of the air, sure, there's an opportunity to increase the filter to improve that some on top of what we're currently doing.
But when I get on those buses, and the buses are always very comfortable when they have the air conditioning on there. Believe it or not, somebody's gonna go back there and open up every window back in the back. Now, what sense does that make when the bus is already comfortable? When you get on there, and sometimes they're pretty cold. And I pretty much ride all over Columbia because I'm nosy.
They shouldn't be able to open any windows at this point.
That's not as bad now there, but they used to time they would get on there, they would go down the line. I'm telling you, because I would be on there.
The majority of the complaints that I saw as
Uh-huh.
far as opening windows is during the summer when
Right,
it's hot.
when it's real, real hot.
When it's real cold on the bus,
Mhm.
they'll open the windows to let the air out because it's too cold. They'll ask the driver, can you please turn the air down or turn it off? So if the driver don't do that, then they'll open the windows so that some of the cold air escapes to make it more comfortable. That's been the majority of the complaints.
Mr. Chair, may I? So on the thinner one, filters typically go off of microns and how,
It's a MERV rating, with your AC filters. That's how they determine. Those go from a 1 to a 20. Now, the most we can go on these is a 7.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're gonna have warranty issues with the Thermo King unit. That unit moves so much air. It is really hard when a bus opens up the doors every 2 blocks. And you've got all new air coming in to get that cooled off again. So
the thin filter will probably pick up a micron of a 10, but the thicker filter will go down to a 2,
Right.
maybe. I mean.
it's like
That's
I think
important,
if I'm,
yeah, what
if
we're
I'm
looking
not
at,
mistaken,
filters.
this will pick up like a 0.3. And then we go down to like a 9 type micron filter. So much more filtration. Much more.
What's that product? What's it called?
This is just it's actually the mechanic term for it. They call it hog hair.
Well, if I'm to make a motion, what do I call it?
Just a return filter for the AC system.
Chairman,
Yes.
can I make a motion that we, have staff take forward to the full board the upgrade of the, better filter system?
So,
Second,
Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess,
yes.
Ms. Leader,
yes.
Ms. Herbert, Representative Howard, Mr. Lawson, Mr. Unthank,
Yes.
motion carries.
I'll go ahead and continue. And that's perfect timing. Last year we had some challenges during the summer months. And Kevin can attest to it while you're there, Kevin.
Yes.
Some challenges we had in the summer months with our AC systems. Actually, the year before last, Kevin had a great plan last year that worked. It allowed us to continue to meet our target. What things are we doing this year to get ready for this heat?
Basically the same thing we did last year. All the AC parts, of course, everybody knows during the hot summertime, everybody's trying to get the same thing. All we did is a few months prior, like we started in February this year, just stocking up on all of the items that we know will need to be replaced. If we have failures and stuff, Freon, just using our budget smartly and stocking up on things to get us through those summer months.
Okay, great, thank you. And we look forward to hitting those targets throughout the summer for your second consecutive year. Taking a look at, thank you, again, taking a look at our on-time performance. We did have a slight increase over the previous month. What I'm gonna start adding into the report is a top 5 and bottom 5. Kind of give us a perspective of what's running well, what's not, some of the steps that we could take for those underperforming routes. I mean, DART had a tremendous, as far as DART, they had a tremendous month on-time performance compared to the previous month. They finished at 93.43, which was a 3.1% increase. So, Dennis, was there something different that was done this month over the previous months to see such a big jump?
Not too much. Some of it was, spring breaks, people leaving. So we didn't have as much volume per se, but we just kept more things on track. So that's pretty much about where it goes in, and plus the shorter amount of the month was shorter.
Okay, all right. So we'll keep pressing in that area. As far as our ridership, we did see March improve over February and January. So of the 3 months so far, it's stronger. Now I did get an opportunity. I met with Eric, and I think he's on. to really discuss, I think we're due for a full ridership analysis. And Eric, do you want to share a little bit of our conversation on what that should look like?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in the past, what we had was a ridership analysis that kind of went from year to year. I think we started back in 2018, as far back as I can think that we've gone. But what we'll look at is either 2018 or 2019, but we'll look at 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and this is all the fiscal year and going forward. And this would be able to set the good baseline for where we are overall as in terms of ridership. So, and then we can kind of, discuss overall service improvements, and what we recognize, I guess, from the data that we have in-house.
Yeah, because I heard, there's some conversation about building around ridership and what can we do to build ridership. I think it's critical. But I think we need to really just confirm the data we have and making sure it's accurate. Because what you see, it appears that we're potentially trailing last year, but I want us to dive in and one, just confirm our true source. And then from there, doing all the analysis to make sure that the numbers we're reporting are correct so we can build the right plan around that. We've had our first meeting, so we'll continue to do that and be able to report back out what that looks like.
Let me ask you.
Yes, Mr. Burke.
When you get numbers and ridership numbers, where do they go to staff? Who gets them?
So when we get those numbers, we ultimately share those with Eric.
So you don't share those numbers with anybody that's here on staff and permanently here?
Other than part of this presentation?
We need to, how about take a look at that for me?
Yes, sir.
See, because I just don't feel like we need an outside consultant to tell us the numbers we already have. But the staff decides we have, So. We already have the numbers.
Yes.
So if you tell me it's one, everybody that look at one gonna say, that's a one.
Right.
So, that's all I have.
Okay, yes, sir. Again, I mentioned about DART. Dennis spoke on their on-time performance. And also, Dennis, can you bring us up to date? We know previously we had some concerns related to the cleaning of the buses and how that new team is doing. And, what improvements have you seen so far or areas that we still have opportunity?
Thank you, Lenny. We started diving deep into the interiors. So a lot of the interiors have been improved. We started the campaign on the rims. So they are starting to come back to their glorious luster. It's going to take a few applications. And we're not going to be able to polish them every single night, every single bus. But we are doing them in phases so that we're slowly doing the improvements on them. You'll start seeing them, and then there'll be a protective type seal on them. Same thing with the bumpers as well. One thing we didn't include in our last one is we found a product that is it's almost like a Armor All, but it's not as, oily, and it doesn't come flying off like as you go down the road. So we found a product for that. So it's almost bringing everything back to black. So we're starting with one vehicle. Once that one's complete, we'll move to the next one, and to the next one, to the next one. Before the new buses, once they come back from wrap and they're getting ready to go into service, we're going to make sure that we go in there. We do the 3-step ZEP armor process and also put the protectants on all the rims and everything and the bumpers so that moving forward, they're protected from day one.
Thank you for that update. Also, something that you may not be aware of, or it's been a long time since we have conversations about it. And it's a quick overview of ZEP Assure. Because we're talking about the filters and things of that nature. Talk about what's happening with ZEP Assure and what that is and how we apply that.
So the ZEP Assure program is a 3-step process, 3 different chemicals. One's a deep is a cleaner. We go into the vehicle, we spray it down, and it cleans every surface.
Oh,
After that surface is cleaned, then we have a food grade, what they use in the food processing plants. It's called aviation disinfectant. And we spray the whole bus with an electrostatic sprayer. That disinfectant has to sit on the material for about 60 seconds and it's fully effective. We let that dry, it takes about 5 minutes. Then we go back with what's called an armor coating and we spray armor coating throughout the whole bus. And it takes about 15 minutes to dry, but that's the last thing that we do. When we exit the bus, we do it. So what that actually does is we've cleaned the bus, we put disinfectant on top of everything, and then now we've sealed in all the pores so that no bacteria can actually start to grow. When we start the process, when we first started the process, we were on the steering wheel, we were getting about 900 to 1,000 microns of bacteria. Once we finished the process, we were at about 50 microns. And after 6 months, we got up to about 100 to 150. So every 6 months, we redo that bus. So that bus has a sticker on the side of it. Every 6 months, we redo the process because 100 to 150 microns is where a operating room likes to operate. And that's where we like to keep the bus in there. So the bacteria, and since we started the process, even we did it in the midst of COVID, our buses that had the process done on them, when we had to go back and do all those trail check or the back tracing and, you know, who got infected or whatever, every single bus that had that protective coating, we didn't have an outbreak on. So that's why we finished up the whole. So that's where we do that. That's today. That's still ongoing. So with that protection there, plus, you know, with the air filters, I think we pretty much have probably the safest buses bacteria-wise.
You have a lot of complaints that people are saying that they were sick or something on the buses or something like that.
Not as of lately, when during COVID, obviously, you know, when somebody came tested positive, you had to back trace everything to see, and then we had to clean every single surface. When we started doing that, I think even our employees and our drivers, we saw a severe reduction in how many cases that our drivers were having.
Right.
So, and it's a type of thing that we can, you know, expand into different types of, you know, facilities, things later on. But our focus was making sure that the vehicles were safe. The only way to remove this armor coating is by wear and tear, which it takes anywhere. ZEP says it takes anywhere from 11 to 12 months of normal wear and tear on a city bus to wipe off. That's why we want to do it every 6.
Okay.
And or if you use pure industrial bleach, undiluted. That's the only way to take this armor coating off.
Well, the bus is always pretty clean. I get on the buses, you know, so whoever's doing it at night or whatever they do is, they're very nice and clean.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you, Dennis. Thank you for that update. In reference to our safety, I mean, we continue to run different safety programs on a regular basis, working with a contractor now to put some additional training together for our operators that we're going to roll out this summer. So hopefully I'll be able to talk more about that when I get all the details. But again, we continue to stay very aggressive in our safety campaigns that we constantly run here and rewards. HR staffing, I mentioned earlier, got a job fair next week. Just so you know, it usually takes, if I have a person come in with a permit only, it usually takes about 7 to 8 weeks to get them through training from start to finish. If they come in with a commercial driver's license, it's taken about 4 to 5 weeks. What we're seeing a lot more of is individuals coming without this commercial driver's license. So it's just taking longer to get them through training. We are capable, in fact, the current class we have now, it's a small class. Those are what we call permit only holders. So it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more patience, but we are equipped to get them prepared for revenue service as well.
What's that training hourly per day? Are they training 6 hours a day for the?
It's 8 hours a day.
8 hours paid?
Yeah.
Or
Yes, yes, sir. Paid training. And that's a combination of classroom and outside training out on the pad, so.
You said that's 8 weeks average?
It's averaging, we're running about 8 weeks, yes, sir. I believe in giving people their flowers while they're here. And we had, and I thank you for the comment. We have numerous people that are sitting over 40 years working. We had 2 operators, Philip Patterson and Moses Taylor, one at 46 years, one at 45 years. And then we had 2 others coming right behind them at 44, Lucius Williams and Kenneth Evans. So we were able to reward them and tell them how, we appreciate them, right? You don't, how many places you go, you got that many people over 40 years, still very productive, right? Wanting to be here, able to, that new operator that's coming in during that 8-week period, able to have conversations with them. Hey, this is how you get through. This is how you make it. This is what it was like for me. This is what I recommend you can do to get your next career. So, and then we have 2 in their 30s. So again, thank you for the comment. We were able to reward them with plaques, and there was a proclamation for the 2 individuals that were 45 or more. And I also have 2 supervisors, Mr. Eddie Mitchell and Jerry Pugh. We're going to be doing their rewards this month, and they're sitting at 44 years. So we're very happy to have all that experience, because I believe in using the experience you have, right? They've seen a lot of things.
They won't know what to do with themselves. They'll be around so long.
Yeah, and but they're adapting to all the technology, all the changes, all the, you gotta give them kudos, because not a lot of people can do that, right?
That's
Make that
true, that's
adjustment.
right.
So we appreciate them. And that concludes my report. I mean, I'm open for questions. Again, I appreciate, again, the comment for their assistance and all the support we get at RATP Dev.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mr. Pearl, let me apologize for this agenda. I moved it around and I didn't put a space back in it for you. So I apologize, but we'll correct that.
I make.
Do we-
Go ahead.
Oh, you got something? I'm sorry.
So I know, I wanted to, I guess, bring up new business, all business. Is that okay? Or a conversation?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, I've had a lot of dialogue with my colleagues at the city, and an effective and efficient transit system is so important for, obviously, quality of life for everybody, for the people that use it and in our communities. I would like this service committee to consider requesting staff to look at the impacts financially on our operating expenses if we were to put into place some free fare riderships, some programs to really try and boost our ridership. Looking at the data provided compared to other peer cities, we're just kind of average, right, Mr. Pearl? That's what you. Yes, sir. But with that, I think there's a tremendous opportunity with the future Richland County transportation funding for us to really grow ridership. I want us to consider, and this is kind of an open conversation, Ms. Clayton, Chairman Burgess, to look at core riderships of, workforce, 55 and plus, students, children with guardians, how we can provide free fare for that ridership population to really boost and use it. We are a growing little economy here. We've got a lot of big job employers coming on. So I think, it's very important that we deliver great workforce to great jobs. We want to open up the transit system for people that don't normally use it. I think focusing on 55 and older to make it more of their daily routine, whether it's doctor's visits, grocery store visits, trips otherwise they wouldn't consider. And then obviously, I know in the past we've talked about, we currently have a free ridership with USC, although USC pays for that system. But we did, I think, have one in the past for Richland 1 and Richland 2 students.
That's what I thought.
So
We still do though.
good, we can check that off the list. So then the other one is, parents with children. These are just general categories of ridership that I would like for us to look at, to really understand what would that operating expense be for the Comet? And then see if we can project that into future revenue streams for whether it's state, federal, and county.
But don't our seniors get to ride free, some of them? We don't.
Maybe getting a reduced.
They get a reduced, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
half fare like, am I right, Jackie?
They get reduced when they show like their Medicare.
Uh-huh, okay. Cause I buy the half fare tickets, you know, cause I like a lot of them, cause I be going anyway.
And I do have one concern too, that I've had for quite some time, hospital employees. Are we tearing their major employees right in the inner city? Are we tying any of our routes to their work schedule? And look at the possibility of making it free.
Don't some of those hospital workers get free ride?
Yes, all the major hospitals have free.
Yeah, they show their ID.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's tied to their work hour.
Haven't complained, so, I mean, the buses are running all day by
What
their,
time does they end, the schedule, in the night schedule?
the hospital here in Columbia. Around 10,
10:30, 11 or something like
10:30,
that.
11 o'clock.
That was the last bus leave downtown.
Going out.
Yes.
It's around 9:30, 10 o'clock.
So they begin at 6, 7 in the morning. You got that covered. Do you have the night tours covered at all of them?
But I don't think it'd be a lot of people on that bus at night, that late at night. Mm-mm.
The ridership drops off around
Around 9 something.
about 9 something.
You know, if you get off at work at 11, you can't be on a 9:30 bus.
But most of the people, a lot of people carpool too, that late area.
I'm gonna let Mr. Cooks evaluate that, all right?
We can certainly look at that.
Yeah, okay.
We would, it's, and it's a great proposal. We would need to look at more into that and then also request some information, not names or anything, but typically what we would do if we were to align that with a certain schedule, we would look at where the employees live. So it would be a scatter graph of where they live, and then it would be more of a higher concentration of where they would go that we would provide. Is that feasible the way that our current bus routes are?
See, I'm gonna ask Councilman Brennan, my concern is we have a major city that's growing. Everybody in the city of Columbia want that Greenville, Charleston growth. But you can't come into Columbia or leave it after 9:30. Is that the bus system all over or what's the reason for that? If it's a good reason for that, then we don't go any further. But if it's not, we need to put it in. See, I grew up in Columbia. Let me talk a little, I'm older than Miss Cleveland. All right, I've ridden a bus. I've ridden a bus from downtown 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. I've ridden a bus coming downtown 11:30 and 12 o'clock at night. All that changed over a period of time.
Yeah.
You know, what was the reason for the change? It wasn't income because FCNG paid the buses. So it wasn't an income.
It was based on ridership. Because when we looked at the ridership, we saw where it was dropping off a certain time at night. That's why it was changed. Because it wasn't. That's what.
Typically, that is it is an industry standard. You look at where your ridership, where your most benefit is. And then if your ridership falls off enough that your ridership goes down, the passengers per hour go down significantly, then you end that schedule and then reallocate that to better serve.
Yes, sir.
during your peak hours more so.
But see, I keep hearing that, and every bus that I see during the day, I can see a bus on all the routes with 1 or 2 passengers on it. Now, if I can watch a bus from 4 to 6 and see 4 passengers, what's the difference between 4 passengers, 4 to 6, and 4 passengers, 11 to 12?
Sometimes it's the first, when you see those 4 passengers on the bus,
Sometimes not.
and sometimes none, maybe 2 or 3 minutes before that, the bus was full. So everybody got
No,
off.
no. I'm your resident, I ain't buying that.
Our buses are
That data ain't cool. No. I'm looking at an empty bus on a route, and it's no passenger, which I know you can pull those hours out if you had to. But my thing is, are we shutting the city down too early? That's my only concern. You know, you have a friend that may live in Oak Hill or wanna go other place, but you can't do it after 9 o'clock at night. What city is developing if you operating like that? You know, even with the church routes, what is our business on Sundays? Are we making that available? I mean, we have a lot of development, and I'm saying all this because we got a penny tied into it too. If things don't go, I don't know.
So, Mr. Fergus, are there any specific areas that you have gotten
But see,
complaints
I'm
about
almost like
that?
get all, you know, I'm one that usually get beat up.
Yeah.
So I look at all of it.
Well, now, Mr. Chairman, aren't we, we're talking about doing a ridership analysis. Isn't this the time
Right.
to do the ridership analysis and then the future ridership analysis with some free fare components and to balance that out
Yeah, and you
for our
look at it,
expectations?
And Mr. Brennan, we did have free fare, I forgot what year that was,
Sure did.
and we got a lot of complaints because,
I was on the board for that.
yeah,
But we all for it. Right, so having the specific, if your employer gives you a letter that says, I need to get to work, here's a free pass. I think that's different than just the general free ride approach that we did in 2020.
Yeah.
So it's that helps us as a city and a county as well with our economic development pursuits. Some of those large employers that would have gone somewhere else are now going to come here because our transit system is attractive for recruiting and retaining talent.
yeah. Back then, we had a lot of, the homeless population.
Yes, understood.
On the buses.
Understood.
Those were the main complaints, that the homeless had taken over the buses, and then the people that were normally riding, they stopped riding.
It started out, sure did.
I think, the category of ridership that I mentioned is a good core.
Yeah.
Of our percentage of riders. So, listen, now's the time if we're gonna do it. And I'm just speaking as a representative from the city of Columbia, there's a lot of energy for us to follow through on this approach. So,
That's something we-
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how you want to move this forward for consideration by staff, what the financial implications would be.
make that motion in service and get it done rather than passing it on to the board.
Okay.
You make the motion, we get it done here. Analysis.
So that would
But
be
there's no cost, it wouldn't be any additional cost.
it's just in generalities.
Right.
What are we plugging in for the future budget is kind of the number I'm looking for, Mr. Chairman.
Wait, Mr. Brand, so that would also include, when looking at that full analysis, DART as well?
That's the type of detail I'd look for you to contribute on.
Okay.
Knowing our total system
Mm.
and knowing all the different demographics of ridership. What is it all encompassing? If you're in a category, 55 and older, throughout the whole system, workforce throughout the whole system, I would really lean on y'all for recommendations.
Excuse me, I know it's probably not normal, but may I make I could piggyback off what Mr. Fergus said, because he did make a valid point. Here, a lot of our riders do work at the hospital. They get off, they take the bus, they take it in, they get off at 10, 10:30, 11:30 at night. At one time, under SCNG, it did run till as late as 11, 11:30 at night. May have been later. I've got stuff going all the way back there. You mentioned a ridership analysis. One of the ways that, and Walter and I have, Durst and I and others have been talking about this, one way of doing that ridership analysis is by having public meetings. I know that you guys have meetings over the internet, but not all of our riders have access to the internet. If they have it, it's at the library. So if you are going to do a ridership analysis, I would request that you consider going to the riders to see where they're at on this, and also to present your findings to them so they can add to it. So you'll get a better picture and you will have more accurate, and they'll be more open towards whatever you do in the future when they say, okay, we're going to have this meeting. So I would suggest having a in-person meeting with the option of also joining on the internet for those who can't make it. But Mr. Fergus is right. This bus has run as late as 11:30, because I used to go to the Athletic Association self-help group down at the Richland Memorial. And that is something that, people that runners started dropping off, to my knowledge, because the buses started being cut at some point. But
Thank you, Mr.
I might be
Stewart.
wrong.
Mr. Burks, can I make the motion? Just
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we request that staff take a look at free fare ridership opportunities and the operating expenses that might go with that.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Fergus,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Mr. Unthank. Mr. Unthank,
Yes.
thank you, sir. Motion carries.
That puts us at number 6.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say